I didn't jump, because someone decided I wasn't allowed to. The first thing I remember wasn't the fear. It wasn't even the height. It was the silence. The kind that wraps around your ears and makes the world feel far away, like you've already left it behind. The city stretched beneath me in a blur of lights and distant sirens, 12 stories down, maybe more. I didn't count. I didn't want to count. Numbers made things real, and I wasn't looking for reality anymore. The wind cut through my coat, sharp and cold, slipping under the fabric like it had permission. My fingers rested on the metal railing, numb from the chill, or maybe from everything else. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. My phone buzzed once in my pocket. I didn't check it. I already knew what it would say. Another message. Another demand. Another reminder that leaving wasn't something I was allowed to do. Not from him. Not from anything. My chest tightened. Not in panic. Not exactly. It was heavier than that. Like something had settled inside me and refused to move. I took a step forward. Just one. The kind that feels smaller than it is. The kind that changes everything. The wind picked up, louder now, pressing against me like a warning I didn't ask for. My heart didn't race. That's what surprised me the most. It was calm. Too calm. Like it had already made the decision before I caught up to it. I closed my eyes. For a second, I imagined silence. Real silence. No voices. No memories. No weight pressing down on my chest every time I tried to breathe. Just quiet. Just nothing. And then, fingers. Strong. Sudden. Wrapping around my wrists so fast, I didn't even process it until I was already moving backward. My eyes snapped open as my body jerked away from the edge, my balance collapsing under me. I stumbled, breath catching somewhere between shock and something sharper. The world tilted, the city lights spinning as I hit solid ground instead of empty air. No, a voice said. Low. Controlled. Not loud, but it didn't need to be. It cut through everything. I tried to pull my hand back, instinct kicking in too late, but his grip tightened just enough to stop me. Not painful. Just certain. Like letting go wasn't an option he considered. I looked up. Black coat. Clean lines. Rain catching on the fabric without leaving a mark. His face was shadowed, but his eyes weren't. They were clear. Focused. Locked on me like I was the only thing in the world that mattered, and not in a comforting way. In a way that felt like being seen too clearly. Who made you want to disappear? He asked. Not, are you okay? Not, what happened? That question. Direct. Sharp. Like he already knew the answer existed and was just waiting for me to admit it. My throat tightened. You don't know me, I said, the words coming out weaker than I wanted. He didn't move. Didn't blink. I know enough, he replied. The wind howled around us, louder now, but it felt distant. Everything did, except the way his hand still held my wrist. Steady. Unshaken. Like the edge behind me didn't exist anymore. Like I didn't get to choose it. I swallowed hard, trying to pull away again, but he stepped closer instead. Not threatening. Not rushed. Just inevitable. You don't get to walk away tonight, he said quietly. And for the first time since I climbed up there, my heart reacted. Not with peace. Not with relief. But with something unfamiliar. Something dangerous. Something that felt like being pulled back into a life I had already decided to leave. And somehow, I wasn't sure I could fight it. I should have pulled away. That was the normal response. That was what any sane person would have done when a stranger grabbed them in the middle of the night and spoke like he had the right to decide things for them. But I did not. My body stayed exactly where it was, frozen between instinct and something else I could not name. His hand was still around my wrist, steady, unshaking, like the wind did not exist, like the height behind me meant nothing. I became aware of my breathing first. Too loud. Too uneven. It felt out of place in the silence he carried with him. I tried again, slower this time, to pull my hand free. He let it move an inch. Maybe two. Then his grip shifted, not tighter, not rough, just firmer. Final. Like he had already decided the outcome of that small battle and saw no reason to argue about it. Let me go, I said, but the words did not sound like a demand. They sounded like a question. His eyes did not leave mine. Not for a second. No, just that. No explanation. No apology. The words settled between us, heavier than it should have been. I felt something in my chest twist, frustration rising, sharp and unfamiliar after so many hours of feeling nothing at all. You cannot just decide that, I snapped, finding a piece of my voice again. You do not know anything about me. He tilted his head slightly, studying me like he was reading something written beneath my skin. "You are standing on a ledge in the middle of the night," he said calmly. "I know enough." The simplicity of it hit harder than any argument could have. I looked away first. I had to. His gaze was too direct, too certain, like he was stripping away every excuse I had built to justify being there. The city lights blurred again, not from distance this time, but from the sudden sting behind my eyes. I blinked it back quickly, swallowing the reaction before it could grow into something worse. I refused to cry in front of him. I refused to give him that. "You should leave," I muttered instead, my voice quieter now, thinner. "This has nothing to do with you." For the first time, something shifted in his expression. Not softness, not kindness, something colder, more deliberate. He stepped closer, just enough that the space between us disappeared completely. I could feel the warmth from him now, a sharp contrast to the wind that had been cutting through me seconds ago. "Everything about this moment has something to do with me," he said, his voice dropping lower. "Controlled. Certain. Because I am the one who decided you are not going anywhere." My breath caught. Not because of fear. Not entirely. There was something else threaded through it now. Something that made it harder to look away, even when I wanted to. "You cannot control me," I whispered. He did not smile. He did not need to. "I already am." The words should have made me angry. They should have pushed me to fight harder, to pull away, to run, to do anything except stand there and listen to him like his voice mattered. But instead they landed somewhere deeper, somewhere that recognized the truth in them before I could deny it. A black car waited at the curb below. I realized suddenly, its engine running, headlights cutting through the rain like quiet witnesses. I had not heard it arrive. I had not noticed anything except him. That realization sent a different kind of chill through me. This was not random. This was not chance. My stomach tightened as I looked back at him, searching his face for something that would make sense of it. "Who are you?" I asked. This time, the question came out steady. He finally released my wrist. Slowly, deliberately. But he did not step back. He did not create distance. If anything, the space between us felt even smaller without his hand there. "Someone who does not let things fall when they still have a reason to stay," he said. Then he glanced toward the street, toward the waiting car, before looking back at me. "And you are coming with me." It was not a question. It was not even a command. It was a conclusion. And standing there, with the wind still howling behind me and the ground solid beneath my feet, I realized something that unsettled me more than anything else that had happened that night. I was no longer thinking about the edge. I was thinking about him. I should have said no. The word sat right there, waiting at the back of my throat, simple and obvious and completely useless. Because even before I opened my mouth, I knew it would not matter. He was already moving. Not fast, not forceful, just forward, like gravity had shifted, and he was the direction everything followed. I hesitated for half a second, my body caught between stepping back and standing still. That half second was all he needed. "I am not getting into a car with a stranger," I said, forcing the words out as I wrapped my arms tighter around myself, the cold suddenly sharper now that his hand was no longer grounding me. He stopped just in front of me, close enough that I could see the faint rain clinging to his dark hair, the way it did not seem to bother him at all. "You already trusted me more than a stranger," he replied calmly. "You turned your back on the edge when I told you to." My breath caught, irritation flickering through me. "That is not trust," I shot back. That was shock. "Call it whatever helps you sleep," he said, his tone unchanged. "You are still here." I hated how easily he said that. Like staying had been a choice I made, not something he had taken from me. I glanced past him, toward the street again. The car was still there, silent, waiting, like it had all the time in the world. No driver visible. No movement. Just presence. My stomach tightened. "I can go home on my own," I said, more quietly now, though I was not sure if I was trying to convince him or myself. His gaze did not soften. If anything, it sharpened, focusing on me with a precision that made it hard to breathe evenly. "No," he said again, the same single word, but this time it carried something heavier behind it. "Finality. Home is the reason you were up here." The truth of it hit too close, too fast. I looked away immediately, jaw tightening as I tried to push it down. "You do not know that," I muttered. He did not argue. He did not list reasons or push further. He just watched me, waiting. That was worse. The silence stretched, filled only by the sound of the wind and the distant hum of traffic below. I could feel it again, that pull, not toward the edge this time, but toward something else. Something I did not understand. You do not get to decide where I go, I said finally, quieter now, but steadier. His head tilted slightly, like he was considering the statement, measuring it against something only he could see. Then he stepped closer again, closing the last inch of space I had tried to keep between us. I already did, he said. No anger, no raised voice, just certainty. My heart stuttered, reacting before my mind could catch up. I should have stepped back. I did not. I should have turned and walked away. I did not. Instead, I stood there, caught in the weight of his presence, in the way the world seemed to narrow down to just this moment, just this decision. His hand lifted slightly, not touching me this time, just hovering for a fraction of a second like he was giving me the illusion of choice. Walk, he said quietly. Not a demand, not a threat, just a direction. And something inside me, something that had been quiet for too long, responded. My feet moved before I fully decided to let them. One step, then another, away from the railing, away from the edge, toward the stairs that led down to the street. I felt it immediately, the shift, the distance growing between me and the place I had been ready to disappear from. It should have felt like relief. It did not. It felt like surrender. He walked beside me, not ahead, not behind, matching my pace exactly. Not guiding, not forcing, just there. Constant. Unavoidable. When we reached the sidewalk, the car door opened before we even stopped moving. I froze again, the reality of it settling in deeper now that everything was closer, clearer. This was not a suggestion. This was a path already set in motion. I turned to him one last time, searching for something, anything that would make sense of why I was doing this. Why me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He looked at me for a long second, his expression unreadable, his eyes steady in a way that made everything else feel unstable. Then he answered, simple and unshaken. Because you were about to leave, he said. A pause, just long enough to matter. And I decided you were staying. The door was already open. That was the first thing I noticed when I stopped in front of the car. It was not unlocked. It was not waiting to be opened. It was already open, like the decision had been made before I even reached the sidewalk. I stood there for a second too long, my feet planted on the wet pavement, the rain soaking through the edges of my shoes, grounding me in a reality that felt like it was slipping anyway. Get in, he said, his voice calm, almost quiet, but it carried through everything. I did not move. My fingers curled slightly at my sides, the last bit of resistance I had left gathering in that small gesture. I said I can go home, I replied, but the words lacked force now. They sounded thinner than before, like I had already started letting go of them. He did not argue. He did not repeat himself. He just stepped closer, his presence shifting the air around me. Again, making everything else feel distant. Look at me, he said. I did. I do not know why I did, but I did. His eyes locked onto mine instantly, steady, unwavering, like he had been waiting for that exact moment. If you walk away right now, he continued, his tone even, controlled, you will end up exactly where you were 10 minutes ago. My chest tightened. I did not respond. Same thoughts, he added. Same edge. The word hit harder this time. Edge. Not dramatic. Not exaggerated. Just a fact. I swallowed, my throat dry despite the rain. You do not know that, I said, but there was no conviction behind it. He held my gaze for another second, then another, like he was giving me time to argue, to fight, to prove him wrong. I could not, because a part of me knew he was right. That was the worst part. Not him, not the car, not the way everything felt out of my control. It was the fact that he was right. I exhaled slowly, the tension leaving my shoulders in a way that felt more like giving up than calming down. My eyes dropped to the open door, to the dark interior that waited without revealing anything. Just tonight, I said quietly, more to myself than to him. I will go home after. He did not correct me. He did not agree either. He simply stepped aside. That was the answer. My legs felt heavier as I moved, each step toward the car slower than the last, like my body was trying to delay what my mind had already accepted. When I reached the door, I hesitated again, my hand hovering near the frame. This was the point where I could still turn back, still walk away, still pretend none of this had happened. I glanced at him one more time. He was watching me. Not impatient. Not forcing. Just certain. Like the outcome had already been decided, and we were simply catching up to it. I took a breath and slid into the seat. The door closed behind me with a soft, final sound that felt louder than it should have. The world outside blurred slightly through the tinted glass, the rain turning the city lights into streaks of gold and white. He got in beside me a second later, the movement smooth, controlled, like everything else about him. The space inside the car felt smaller immediately, not physically, but in a way that made me more aware of him, of the quiet power he carried without effort. The engine shifted, the car beginning to move before I even realized we had started. I stared straight ahead, my hands resting in my lap, still slightly trembling from everything that had happened. What happens now? I asked after a moment, my voice softer than I intended. He did not answer right away. I felt his gaze on me again, steady, measuring, like he was deciding how much to say. Then, finally, he spoke. Now, he said, his tone low and certain, you stay where I can see you. My heart skipped, not in fear this time, but in something far more complicated. I looked at him, searching for any sign that he was joking, that this was temporary, that I had misunderstood. There was nothing, just that same calm certainty, the kind that did not ask for permission, the kind that did not need it. And for the first time since I got into the car, I realized something I had not fully understood before. This was not about one night. This was about control. And somehow, without fully realizing when it happened, I had already given him enough of it to make walking away feel impossible. The car moved smoothly through the city, like it belonged to a different world than the one I had been standing in just minutes ago. The streets blurred past the window, neon signs melting into streaks of color against the rain, headlights reflecting off wet asphalt in long, quiet lines. I kept my eyes forward at first, then slowly turned toward the glass, watching everything slip by without really seeing it. My reflection stared back at me, pale, tired, unfamiliar. I barely recognized the girl sitting here, dry inside a car that probably cost more than everything I owned combined, while the version of me from 20 minutes ago still stood somewhere on that rooftop in my mind. You are quiet, he said. His voice cut through the hum of the engine, low but precise, like every word had a place it was meant to land. I did not look at him right away. What am I supposed to say? I asked, my tone softer now, not sharp, not defensive, just empty. He did not respond immediately. I felt his gaze again, steady and assessing, like silence itself was information to him. You could start with the truth, he said. I let out a quiet breath, something between a laugh and a sigh. You would not like it, I replied. Try me. That simple confidence unsettled me more than anything else. Like he had already decided there was nothing I could say that would change whatever he had planned. I shifted slightly in my seat, my fingers brushing against the soft leather beneath me, grounding myself in something physical. The truth is, I said slowly, choosing each word carefully, I did not plan anything tonight. I just ended up there. He watched me without interruption, letting me continue or stop on my own terms. It should have felt like freedom. It did not. It felt like he already knew where this was going. And when I got there, I added quietly, it felt easier to stay than to leave. The words lingered in the space between us, heavier now that they were out in the open. I expected him to question it, to challenge it. He did not. Easier is not the same as right, he said instead. I turned to him then, my brows pulling together slightly. You think I do not know that? I asked, a flicker of frustration returning. His expression did not change. I think you stopped caring, he corrected. That landed deeper than I wanted it to. I looked away again, my chest tightening as the truth of it settled in. He was not wrong. I had not been thinking about right or wrong. I had just been tired. Tired of fighting things that never seemed to change. Tired of carrying weight that never got lighter. The car slowed slightly as we turned onto a quieter street, the city noise fading into something softer, more controlled. I realized then that I had no idea where we were going. Where are you taking me? I asked, my voice steadier now, though the question carried more than curiosity. He glanced ahead, then back at me, like the answer was obvious. Somewhere you can breathe, he said. I frowned slightly. That sounds like a line. It is not, he replied. The car came to a smooth stop in front of a building that rose quietly into the night, its glass exterior reflecting the dim glow of the city around it. It was not flashy, not loud, just expensive in a way that did not need to prove itself. The door opened before I could ask anything else. I hesitated again, my body reacting before my mind caught up. You said just tonight. I reminded him, my voice quieter now, almost cautious. He stepped out first, then turned slightly, offering nothing but his presence as an answer. Get out, he said calmly. Not harsh, not forceful, just certain. I stared at him for a second, searching for something that would give me back a sense of control. There was nothing, just that same steady gaze. The same quiet authority that had followed me from the rooftop to this moment. I stepped out of the car. The air felt different here. Quieter. Still. Like the world had been filtered down to something simpler. The building doors opened as we approached. No hesitation, no delay. Inside, everything was polished, clean, controlled. I felt out of place immediately. He did not. He walked forward without slowing, like this space belonged to him in a way I could not explain. I followed because stopping felt harder. The elevator ride was silent. The numbers climbed steadily, each floor pulling me further away from the version of myself that had almost disappeared. When the doors finally opened, the space beyond was wide and dimly lit, warm light stretching across smooth floors and tall windows that overlooked the sleeping city. I stopped just inside, my breath catching slightly as I took it in. It was not just a place. It was a statement. Control. Power. Distance from everything below. You can stay here, he said behind me. I turned slowly, my heart picking up again, not from fear, but from the weight of what he was offering. Or deciding. And if I do not want to? I asked quietly. He held my gaze, unwavering, unshaken. Then you will still be here, he said. And something in the way he said it made me realize that this was not about forcing me. It was about something else entirely. Something deeper. Something that felt less like a choice and more like a decision that had already been made the moment. He pulled me back from the edge. I did not move further into the room. I stayed just inside the doorway, like stepping any deeper would mean something I was not ready to admit yet. The space was quiet, almost too quiet, the kind that made every small sound feel intentional. The faint hum of the city below barely reached this high, softened by glass and distance. I wrapped my arms around myself again, not because I was cold, but because I needed something to hold on to. You do not even ask, I said after a moment, my voice low, steady but carrying a question underneath. He did not seem surprised by it. He walked past me without hesitation, setting his keys down on a smooth surface with a quiet, deliberate motion, like everything he did had already been decided before it happened. Ask what, he replied. I turned slightly, watching him as he moved through the space like he had built it for himself, like every line and corner belonged exactly where it was supposed to be. If I am okay, I said. The words felt strange leaving my mouth. I had not realized how long it had been since anyone had asked me that. He paused for a second, then looked at me, really looked this time, not just observing, but measuring something deeper. You are not, he said simply. No hesitation. No softness. Just truth. It should have felt harsh. It did not. It felt accurate. I let out a breath I did not realize I had been holding, my shoulders dropping slightly as the weight of pretending lifted for just a second. Most people would lie, I said quietly. Most people are not paying attention, he replied. That answer settled somewhere deeper than I expected. I glanced around the room again, taking in the details I had missed before. The furniture was minimal but precise, everything placed with intention, nothing extra, nothing out of line. It felt controlled. Not cold, just disciplined. Like chaos was not allowed to exist here. I wondered if that was the point. You said I can stay, I said, shifting my weight slightly. That sounds temporary. He watched me for a moment, his expression unreadable as always. It is, he said. A pause, just long enough to make me think. For now, my chest tightened again, not from fear this time, but from the uncertainty wrapped inside those two words. For now, it left too much open, too much undefined. I walked a few steps further into the room, slow, cautious, like I was testing the space rather than claiming it. My fingers brushed lightly against the back of a chair, grounding myself again. And tomorrow? I asked. He moved then, stepping closer, not invading, not overwhelming, just enough to remind me that I was not alone in this space. Tomorrow, he said, his voice low, steady, you will still be here. I looked up at him, searching for something that would tell me this was optional, that I could leave if I wanted to. But his gaze did not offer that. It offered certainty. Not control in the way I had feared earlier, but something more complicated. Like he had already decided that leaving was not part of the outcome. You keep saying that, I murmured, my voice quieter now. Like it is already decided. He did not deny it. It is, he said. My heart skipped, not in panic, but in something that felt dangerously close to acceptance. I turned away again, walking toward the large windows that overlooked the city. The view stretched out endlessly, lights flickering in the distance, each one a life, a story, a place I could disappear into if I wanted to. But I was not out there anymore. I was here. I rested my hand lightly against the glass, feeling the cool surface beneath my fingertips. You do not even know me, I said softly, almost to myself. His voice came from behind me, closer now. I know enough to understand why you were on that ledge. I closed my eyes for a second, the words settling over me like something I could not quite shake off. Then tell me, I said quietly, turning just enough to look at him again. Why was I there? He held my gaze, steady and unshaken, like he had been waiting for me to ask that exact question. Because you thought no one would notice if you disappeared, he said. The truth of it hit harder than anything else he had said so far. I felt it in my chest, in my throat, in the way my breath caught before I could stop it. I looked away quickly, swallowing the reaction, trying to hold on to whatever control I had left. You are wrong, I whispered. He did not move. Am I? He asked quietly. The question lingered in the space between us, unanswered, heavier than anything else that had been said that night. And for the first time since I stepped into this place, I realized something that unsettled me more than anything else. I did not know if I wanted him to be wrong anymore. I did not answer him. I could not. Because the truth was already sitting there between us, quiet and undeniable, and saying anything would only make it louder. I kept my hand against the glass, my eyes fixed on the city below, but I was not really looking at it anymore. I was looking inward, somewhere I had been avoiding for a long time. You are thinking too much, he said behind me. His voice was closer now, low and steady, like it had found a place it intended to stay. I let out a slow breath, my fingers pressing slightly harder against the cool surface of the window. That is all I ever do, I replied softly. Think, overthink, until everything feels heavier than it actually is. He did not interrupt. He did not dismiss it. He just listened. That alone felt unfamiliar. I turned slightly, leaning my shoulder against the glass so I could face him without fully stepping away from the view. And you, I added, studying him now. You act like everything is simple. His expression did not change, but there was something in his eyes, something quieter beneath the control. It is, he said. I shook my head, a faint, almost disbelieving smile touching my lips before I could stop it. No, it is not. He stepped closer, not rushed, not forceful, just deliberate. You wanted to leave, he said. I did not let you. That is simple. The words should have frustrated me. Instead, they made something inside me shift. Because he was not wrong. He reduced everything to its core, stripped away the noise, the doubts, the endless loops in my head. I looked at him for a long second, really looked this time. At the calm in his posture, the certainty in his presence. The way he did not hesitate, did not second guess. You do not doubt anything, do you? I asked quietly. He held my gaze, steady as ever. Doubt wastes time, he replied. I let out a soft breath, my eyes dropping for a moment before lifting again. Must be nice. There was no sarcasm in it, just honesty. He did not respond to that. Instead, his attention shifted slightly, like he was noticing something I had not realized I was doing. You are still shaking, he said. I stilled immediately, my hands tightening slightly at my sides. I had not even noticed. He reached for something on a nearby surface, a glass of water, and held it out toward me. Not forcing, not insisting, just offering. I hesitated for a second, then took it, my fingers brushing his briefly. The contact was minimal, but it lingered longer than it should have. I looked down at the glass, then back up at him. You keep acting like you know what I need, I said. I know what people need when they're standing on edges, he replied. That made me pause. My brows pulled together slightly as I studied him again. That sounds specific, I said slowly. He did not look away. It is. I felt a shift in the air, subtle but real, like something unspoken had just moved closer to the surface. You have seen it before, I said, not quite a question. He nodded once. More than once. The simplicity of that answer carried more weight than a long explanation ever could. I looked down at the glass in my hands again, my reflection faint in the surface, distorted by the movement of the water. And what? I asked quietly. You just step in every time. He watched me carefully, like he was choosing his words with more precision now. No, he said. Only when it matters. I lifted my eyes back to his, something in my chest tightening again, but not in the same way as before. This felt different. And I matter? I asked before I could stop myself. The question hung there, heavier than I expected, more vulnerable than I wanted. He did not hesitate. Yes. Just that. No explanation. No elaboration. But it was enough. It landed somewhere deep, somewhere I had been trying not to look at for a long time. I looked away quickly, the weight of it too much to hold directly. You do not even know me, I repeated, softer. This time, less defensive, more uncertain. His voice came again, closer, steadier. I know you did not jump, he said. That is enough for now. I closed my eyes for a brief second, the words settling into something that felt almost grounding. Not overwhelming. Not suffocating. Just present. When I opened them again, the city lights looked different. Not brighter. Not clearer. Just farther away. And for the first time since I stepped onto that ledge, I realized I was no longer trying to disappear from them. I was standing still. And somehow, that felt like more than I had expected to survive. The silence after his answer did not feel empty. It felt full. Too full. Like something had shifted into place inside me without asking permission, and now I could not move it even if I tried. I kept my eyes on the glass in my hands, watching the slight ripple settle until the surface went still again. Enough for now, I repeated quietly, more to myself than to him. The words lingered, softer this time, like they had lost some of their edge. I took a small sip of water, the coolness grounding me in a way I had not expected. Simple, real, present. I had almost forgotten what that felt like. You should sit, he said after a moment. Not a command. Not exactly, but close enough that my body reacted before I could question it. I moved toward the couch slowly, each step deliberate, like I was relearning how to exist in a space that was not built on pressure and noise. I sat down, the soft fabric sinking slightly beneath me, unfamiliar but not unwelcome. He remained standing for a second longer, watching me like he was making sure I stayed exactly where I was. Then he moved too, but not beside me. Across from me. Enough distance to breathe. Enough presence to remind me I was not alone. I wrapped my hands around the glass again, holding on to it like it anchored me here. You said you have seen it before, I said, my voice quieter now, less guarded. People like me. He leaned back slightly, his posture relaxed but controlled, like even rest was something he managed carefully. Not like you, he replied. Situations like yours. I frowned faintly, my gaze lifting to meet his. That sounds like a distinction you think matters. It does, he said simply. I studied him for a second, trying to understand the difference he was pointing to. Then explain it, I said. He held my gaze, steady as always, like he had already decided how much I needed to know. People break for different reasons, he said. But the moment they choose to step away from everything, that part is always the same. I felt something tighten in my chest again, not sharp, not painful, just present. And what part is that? I asked quietly. He did not look away. The part where they believe nothing will change, he said. The truth of it settled over me slowly, like a weight I could not shift anymore. I looked down again, my fingers tightening slightly around the glass. And you think you can change that? I asked. There was no challenge in my voice this time. Just uncertainty. He did not hesitate. I already did, he said. My breath caught slightly, my eyes lifting back to his. For a second, I wanted to argue. To tell him that nothing had changed, that I was still the same person with the same problems waiting outside this place. But the words did not come. Because something had changed. Not everything. Not enough to fix anything. But enough to stop me from stepping forward when I had been ready to disappear. And that mattered more than I wanted to admit. That does not mean it lasts, I said quietly. He leaned forward slightly, his gaze sharpening just enough to pull my attention back to him completely. It does not have to last forever, he replied. It just has to last long enough. I frowned slightly. Long enough for what? He held my gaze, unwavering. For you to decide you are not done yet. The words settled into something deeper, something that reached past the noise in my head and landed somewhere quieter. I looked away again, my thoughts slowing for the first time in what felt like forever. Not gone. Not silent. Just slower. You make it sound simple, I murmured. It is simple, he said again. I shook my head faintly, but this time there was less resistance in it. No, I said softly. It is just clearer when you say it. That was the difference. He did not make things easier. He made them unavoidable. I leaned back slightly, the tension in my shoulders easing just a fraction as I let myself settle into the moment instead of fighting it. The room felt quieter now, not heavy, not suffocating, just still. I glanced at him again, studying the calm in his expression, the certainty that never seemed to waver. Why do you care? I asked finally. The question came out softer than I expected, but it carried more weight than anything else I had said. He did not answer immediately. For the first time, there was a pause. Not hesitation, consideration. Then he spoke, his voice lower now, quieter, but no less certain. Because you were ready to leave, he said. A brief pause, just enough to matter. And I do not let things leave when they still have a reason to stay. I felt something shift again, deeper this time, something that did not feel like pressure or control or fear. Something that felt like being seen. Not entirely, not perfectly, but enough. And sitting there, in a place that was not mine, across from a man I did not know, I realized something I had not expected to feel that night. I was not trying to disappear anymore. I was trying to understand why I had wanted to. The room felt different now, not because anything had changed, but because I had. It was subtle, almost impossible to explain, like the air had shifted just enough for me to notice it without fully understanding why. I leaned back into the couch, the tension in my body slowly unwinding, not completely, but enough that I could feel the difference. Enough that I was aware of it. You keep saying I have a reason to stay, I said quietly, my eyes drifting toward the city lights again. But you do not know what is waiting for me out there. He did not respond right away. I could feel his attention on me, steady, present, like he was letting the weight of my words settle before answering. I do not need to know everything, he said finally. I just need to know that whatever is out there is not stronger than your choice to stay here. I let out a slow breath, my fingers loosening slightly around the glass I was still holding. That sounds like confidence, I murmured. It is, he replied. I glanced at him, studying the calm certainty that never seemed to leave him, and for the first time, it did not feel overwhelming. It felt stabilizing, like something solid I could lean against without it collapsing under me. What if I change my mind? I asked, my voice softer now, less defensive, more honest. What if tomorrow I wake up and everything feels the same again? He leaned forward slightly, his gaze locking onto mine with that same unwavering focus. Then you stay again, he said. The simplicity of it caught me off guard. I blinked, my brows pulling together slightly. That is it? I asked. That is it, he confirmed. I let out a quiet breath, something between disbelief and reluctant acceptance. You make it sound like a decision I can just repeat, I said. It is, he replied. You made it once tonight. You can make it again. I looked down at my hands, the tremor that had been there earlier almost gone now, replaced by something steadier, something quieter. And if I do not? I asked, barely above a whisper. He did not hesitate. Then I will remind you, he said. I looked up at him quickly, searching his face for any sign of doubt, any hesitation, any indication that this was just words. There was none, just that same calm certainty. You cannot be there every time, I said. No, he agreed. But the decision can. That settled deeper than anything else he had said, because he was not offering to fix everything. He was not promising to take away what waited outside these walls. He was giving me something else, something smaller, something repeatable, something that felt possible. I leaned back again, my head resting lightly against the couch as I let that thought sink in. The city outside looked different now, not less chaotic, not less overwhelming, just less final. I almost disappeared tonight, I said quietly, the words coming out without the weight they had carried before. He did not interrupt. And now I am here, I added, my voice softer, steadier. That is not nothing. No, he said. It is not. I turned my head slightly to look at him again. Really look this time, without the fear, without the resistance that had been there before. You pulled me back, I said. It was not an accusation, not a complaint, just a fact. He held my gaze, his expression unchanged. You stepped back, he corrected. I felt a faint, Almost unfamiliar smile touched my lips, small but real. Maybe, I admitted. The silence that followed did not feel heavy anymore. It felt calm. I set the glass down slowly, my hands finally still as I rested them in my lap. I do not know what happens next, I said after a moment. You do not have to, he replied. I nodded slightly, accepting that in a way I had not expected to. For once, not knowing did not feel like something to fear. It felt like something I could face. I glanced at the city one last time, the lights stretching out endlessly, no longer something I wanted to disappear from, but something I could exist within. And sitting there, in a place that was not mine, beside a man I had not known a few hours ago, I realized something that changed everything in a quiet, almost invisible way. He did not give me a reason to live. He gave me a reason to stay. And somehow, for the first time in a long time, that was enough.